Hello, my name is Oslin Friedline, and I will be presenting on social media and how it affects our inner peace. So I just start off by saying a little thing about how today's generations are growing up in a very different landscape technologically than previous generations. And because social media is so accessible and so much a part of our identity, it's interesting to see how that affects our mental health and our inner peace. And a lot of what we do, it gets broadcasted to our entire group of followers or our friends on Facebook or everyone we are connected to through the internet, and not just those that we know, but those that are seeing our profiles. Would that have access whether we know it or not? And we get really tied up into appearance and how we are living online and projecting ourselves. And so we don't realize always how that is affecting our inner peace and our mental health. We talked a lot through this class about how media affects peace between humans, countries, and communities, but I decided to focus on the peace that is within ourselves because that is something that is very dear to me. And I think that you get out of this world what you put into it. And so if you're putting out a peaceful social media usage, then there's no reason why you can't get that in return. Social media can be used, as we've seen throughout the class, as a beneficial tool, but a lot of the times it causes conflict rather than solving it. So just a few stats about social media platforms. They are not just all one platform, obviously. So Facebook is the most used social media platform with 2 billion monthly users. And with that, 75% of those 2 billion users are on the site for at least 20 minutes every day. Twitter, we now see used as a business platform, and as it says here, 80% of users have mentioned a brand in a tweet. And so companies are using Twitter as a way to increase customer satisfaction. Instagram, I associate a lot with vanity, mostly because it's just photos and how we are projecting our lives into the world. But Snapchat we also see as a new messaging platform because those messages are able to disappear. And we are living in such an instantaneous world that what we allow people to see, even for those 5 to 10 seconds, that can't be seen again. It's a very instantaneous and very spontaneous way of living. I can tell you right now, I have Facebook open. Spotify was playing music as I was making this presentation. Instagram, Tumblr, and Snapchat all gave me notifications on my phone within the time that I was making this presentation, this Wakelet. And whenever I do take a break, I find myself personally going straight to social media as a way to take a break from the work I have to do. And even then, when I'm ready to go to sleep, I turn off my laptop and go immediately on my phone. So social media is all around us at all times, and with devices like handheld phones, they are always here with us. So I included this article, and it follows a 13-year-old girl and her family and what her life is like now that she has a phone and access to all of this social media. And a quote from her, she says, "I don't feel like a child anymore. I'm not doing anything childish. At the end of 6th grade, I just stopped doing everything I normally did, playing games at recess, playing with toys, all of it done." Now in this story, It is a true story of this girl that is followed. She got a phone when she was in 5th grade because her mother had developed breast cancer and they didn't know what would happen, and so they needed the phone for emergencies. And it ended up being more than for emergencies in her eyes because she did become so connected in social media. It was a very fun article to read in the sense that it really dove into what it was like to be a 13-year-old with access to all the social media that I, as a 21-year-old, have had access to for less time than 13. I was 13 when I got my first phone, but it did not have access to the internet. And I was 16 when I got my first iPhone. So now that kids as young as 13, 8, 9, 10, 11, however old, have access to this, they are having to grow up much quicker than I did and then our parents did because it is forced upon them. It's right in front of them. So the next thing I have is a Tumblr post, a Tumblr thread, talking about how the 90s kids are called the generation of nostalgia because so much advancement happened in such a rapid time frame. And we can remember having technologies that are now obsolete, such as going from computers that were in a computer room to having a computer that is now in your pocket. And it says here, it sparks a nostalgia for our seemingly simpler childhood because so much rapid development makes it seem like it was a lot longer ago than it actually was. And there is a lot of camaraderie in that. And we have this, 90s, go outside and play until the streetlight comes on and catch fireflies. And now you see that kids aren't playing outside as much, but it's mostly because in our time that's all we had to do. And I say our time even though it was only 15, 20 years ago. I also tell a story that is often brought up around my dinner table. My family, we unplug at the dinner table unless to bring up a point or to look up a fact that we can't remember. So we try as best as we can to not have our phones because we like to have conversation. And one of the things that has been brought up a lot this semester because of this class is technology. And my dad always tells the story about my great-grandmother, Gladys Soul. She was born in 1900, and she went from the time when she was 3, 4 years old to hearing about the Wright brothers, which they didn't believe at the time. They thought that was just fake, to seeing planes in the air that regularly took people across the globe, around the globe, to watching a man on the moon. And my father, is so fascinated at the fact that in a lifetime, not even her entire lifetime, but from the time she was 3 to 60, she saw flight and then a man outside of our atmosphere. And I took that into consideration and brought up to him that that's what happened with my generation growing up with computers. We went from having huge computers and rooms dedicated just to computers to having a computer in our pockets and that is accessible to us at all times. We literally have the world at our fingertips and we have all of the knowledge we could ever want at our fingertips. I included a video from College Humor. Please pardon the language, but it's a little skit they do about people who unplug and leave Facebook for a certain time and then come back and act as if they're high and mighty and have changed and become enlightened. So just to put a little humor on this situation. So I kind of dove into the mental health side of social media, and a study that was done at the University of Salford did find that social media is indeed very anxiety inducing, whether it's blatantly an anxious situation or just little things that build up and cause anxiety. And that was found in an article called "You Don't Have to Unplug to Find Inner Peace." And here, this article was talking about how it is good to unplug, and there are National Unplug Days where people are encouraged to not use their phones and not use their laptops or social media and to just find their calm. But the point in this article was saying that there are ways to do that without having to completely get rid of social media. And going back to the study that was done about anxiety-inducing social media, a lot of that comes from not being able to check social media or not having your phone next to you when you're so used to having that access. If you take it away immediately, that may cause some stress as well. I think that unplugging is healthy. During finals week, I always unplug, and I don't delete my accounts. I just turn off the notifications so it's not bombarding me. I still have access to it if I want to check it, but it's not an immediate distraction to me. And then the last thing that I did, I wanted to talk about the theater department's production of The Wiz that just closed. We had a very interesting take on the production. I designed the props for the production, so that meant I had to be a part of the story as well, even though I wasn't the one performing. Our director wanted to place the story, in today's time, and so the tornado wasn't an actual physical tornado, it was a social media storm. And so we had an artist on silks, one of the performers on silks behind screens where videos of media and news reports and gossip and all of these things that we see in our daily lives that we are constantly scrolling through on our feed, they were just projected in front of her. And then she fell into this world of Oz. And in this production, Toto wasn't an actual physical dog. It was Siri in a way. It was her phone. And so in the end, you see all the conflicts and you meet all the same characters as you would in The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz. But we just placed it in a time frame that fit with social media and how that pulls you away from those around you, such as Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, and the things that we could be doing to be getting closer to our families, things that interrupt our inner peace. So that was, I think, an interesting way to end off this semester and to tie into my presentation. Thank you so much. Have a good one.